It's 2 a.m. You're lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, and instead of sleeping, your brain decides right now is the perfect time to replay that conversation you had 3 years ago. You start wondering, did I say that wrong? Did they take it the wrong way? What did they actually mean when they said that? Sound familiar? Or maybe it's this: you get a simple text from someone and suddenly you're analyzing every single word, every punctuation mark, trying to figure out what they really meant. Or you have a decision to make. Doesn't even have to be a big one. And you spend hours, sometimes days, going back and forth in your head until you're completely exhausted and still haven't decided anything. If any of that sounds like you, first I want you to know something important. You are not crazy. You're not broken. You are an overthinker. And today, we are going to get deep inside the psychology of why your brain does this, what it's actually costing you, and most importantly, how to stop it using real science-backed strategies that actually work. But before we get into all of that, let me share something with you that might completely change how you see yourself. First, let's get clear on what overthinking actually is, because it's not just thinking too much. That's too simple. Overthinking is when your mind gets stuck in repetitive, unproductive thought loops. You're not solving a problem. You're not making progress. You're just going around and around the same thoughts, the same fears, the same what ifs without ever reaching a resolution. Now, overthinking comes in two main flavors, and psychologists actually separate them. The first is rumination, and that's when you're stuck in the past, replaying old conversations, regretting decisions you made, picking apart things that already happened and can't be changed. The second is worry, and that's when you're stuck in the future, catastrophizing, imagining the worst possible outcomes. What if this goes wrong? What if they leave? What if I fail? Both are exhausting. Both are damaging. And here's the wild part. Studies show that overthinkers spend more than 70% of their mental energy focused on problems they have absolutely no control over. Think about that for a second. Most of your mental fuel is being burned on things you can't even change. You might recognize it in small moments: rereading a text you already sent, second-guessing an answer you gave in a meeting, lying awake at night because your brain refuses to just stop. That is overthinking, and there is a very specific reason your brain keeps doing it. So, why does the brain do this? Why does it torture you like this? The answer is actually rooted in psychology and neuroscience. And once you understand it, so much starts to make sense. The first reason is something called negativity bias. Your brain, at its core, is a survival machine. And thousands of years ago, the humans who survived were the ones who paid extra attention to threats and dangers. So your brain evolved to scan for problems constantly. Back then, that was useful. It kept people alive. But today, your brain is using that same threat detection system to worry about a text message or a work email. The wiring hasn't caught up with the times. The second piece is something neuroscientists call the default mode network, or DMN. This is the part of your brain that activates when you're not focused on a specific task. You'd think when your brain is idle, it would rest. It doesn't. It starts wandering, and for overthinkers, that wandering turns into looping. The DMN is essentially the overthinking engine running in the background of your mind. Third, and this one is really important, overthinking is deeply connected to anxiety and a need for control. Here's the truth most people don't realize. Overthinkers aren't thinking too much because they enjoy it. They're thinking too much because some part of them believes that if they think hard enough, they can prevent bad things from happening. Overthinking feels like preparation. It feels like protection, but it's actually just anxiety wearing a disguise. Then there's perfectionism. The fear of making the wrong choice, of being judged, of not being enough. All of that fuels what psychologists call analysis paralysis. You become so afraid of choosing wrong that you can't choose at all. And finally, for those of you who overthink in relationships specifically, this often connects to anxious attachment. If you grew up in an environment where love or safety felt inconsistent, your nervous system learned to stay on high alert, always scanning, always analyzing, because once upon a time, that vigilance mattered. Here's how I want you to think about it. Overthinking is like spinning your car wheels in mud. The more you press the gas, the deeper you sink. The effort feels like progress, but you're actually going nowhere. Now let's talk about what this is actually costing you. Because overthinking isn't just annoying, it has real consequences. Mentally, chronic overthinking is one of the strongest predictors of anxiety and depression. When you're constantly running worst-case scenarios, your brain stays in a low-grade stress state. Over time, that wears you down completely. Physically, the stress from overthinking disrupts your sleep, exhausts your body, and research has even linked chronic stress to a weakened immune system. You are literally making yourself sick by thinking. In your relationships, overthinking causes you to misread situations, project emotions onto others, and create problems that don't exist. You push people away without realizing it because you're reacting to a story in your head rather than what's actually happening. In your career and daily decisions, overthinking leads to missed opportunities. You hesitate too long. Someone else moves. You second guess a good idea until you've talked yourself out of it. And here's the cruelest irony of all. Overthinking feels productive. It feels like you're being careful, responsible, thorough. But research consistently shows that overanalyzing decisions actually makes the quality of those decisions worse, not better. So let me ask you something personal. How many moments have you missed because you were too busy living inside your own head? How many experiences, conversations, opportunities have passed you by while you were stuck in a loop? That ends today. All right, now let's get into the part you came here for. Real strategies, backed by psychology, that actually interrupt the overthinking cycle. Strategy 1, Cognitive Defusion. This comes from acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT, and it's incredibly powerful. The core idea is this: your thoughts are not facts. They are just mental events passing through. The problem is, when we overthink, we fuse with our thoughts. We become them. Cognitive diffusion teaches you to step back and observe your thoughts instead. Here's how you practice it. Instead of thinking, I'm a failure, you say to yourself, I notice I'm having the thought that I'm a failure. It sounds small, but that tiny shift in language creates distance between you and the thought, and distance gives you power. Strategy 2, the 5-minute worry window. Instead of trying to suppress your overthinking, which almost never works, you schedule it. Give yourself a specific 5-minute window each day where you are allowed to worry or ruminate. Outside of that window, when an anxious thought comes up, you tell your brain, not now, we'll handle that at 6 p.m. This trains your mind that thoughts have a container. They don't have to take over your entire day. Strategy 3, name it to tame it. This one is neuroscience-backed. Research from UCLA found that simply labeling your emotions reduces activation in the amygdala, the fear center of your brain. So when you catch yourself in a thought spiral, say it out loud or in your head. This is rumination. This is worry. This is my anxiety talking. The act of naming it interrupts the automatic loop and brings your prefrontal cortex, your rational brain, back online. Strategy 4, the action antidote. Overthinking thrives in stillness and uncertainty. One of the fastest ways to break a thought loop is to take any physical action. Go for a walk, do 10 push-ups, wash the dishes, call a friend. Movement shifts your nervous system out of the anxiety spiral and back into the present moment. I want you to write this down somewhere. You cannot think your way out of overthinking. You have to act your way out. Strategy 5, the 2-question reset. Whenever you notice you're spinning, Stop and ask yourself just two questions. First, is this thought useful to me right now? Not is it true, not is it possible, is it useful? And second, what is the one next action I can take? Just one, not 10 steps ahead, just the next step. These two questions redirect your brain from abstract looping to concrete reality, and that is where peace lives. Before we wrap up, I want to say something that I think you really need to hear. Overthinking doesn't mean you're weak. In fact, many of the most emotionally intelligent, deeply caring, highly empathetic people are overthinkers. You overthink because you care about people, about outcomes, about doing the right thing. That sensitivity is not a flaw. It just needs direction. Psychologist Dr. Kristen Neff has spent her career studying self-compassion, and her research shows something remarkable. Treating yourself with the same kindness you would offer a good friend is one of the most powerful tools for mental health that exists. Most overthinkers are incredibly compassionate toward others and absolutely brutal toward themselves. That gap is where the suffering lives. So let me say this clearly. You were never taught how to manage your own mind. Nobody sat you down and said, here is how thoughts work. Here is how anxiety shows up. Here is what to do when your brain spirals. You were just expected to figure it out. And when you couldn't, you probably decided something was wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you. You just missed a class that nobody taught. And you're catching up right now. So let's bring it all together. Overthinking is your brain's threat detection system running on overdrive. It's rooted in negativity bias, anxious attachment, perfectionism, and a nervous system trying desperately to feel safe. And left unchecked, it costs you your sleep, your relationships, your health, and your joy. But you are not helpless. Here are your 5 tools. Use cognitive diffusion to create distance from your thoughts. Use the worry window to contain them. Name your emotions to tame your brain's fear response. Take action to break the physical loop. And use the 2-question reset to come back to reality. Here's your challenge for this week. Just one thing. Every single time you catch yourself in a thought spiral, pause, take a breath, and ask, is this thought useful right now? That one habit, practiced consistently, can genuinely change the way your mind works. You are not your thoughts. You are the one who notices them. And that awareness, right there, is where your freedom begins. If this video spoke to you, I'd love to know. Drop a comment below and tell me, what do you overthink about the most? Your answer might just become the next video on this channel, and if you found value here, share this with someone who needs it. You probably already know exactly who that person is. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, be a little easier on yourself. You deserve that.